Hello, good morning and welcome to the exciting world of sports, bringing you sports this morning and a whole lot that is actually happening right there, brought to you courtesy of Spectrum Television. I am Mutube David and I'm super delighted to return back on your screens with a whole lot to look at this particular morning in the world of sports, from the track and field where many Nigerian representatives are still doing well in their respective competitions. We'll also look at the world of tennis, what's also happening right there in of course, big conversation, and that has to do with the first 1,000 tour level event in the year 2026. We'll also look at the world of basketball, where some franchise is still looking forward to getting more consistent results as regards the race for who qualifies to the playoffs. We'll also look at the world of football this particular morning. Yesterday, the Super Falcons played their second friendly match against the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon, and that happened to be the last preparatory game before the start of the WAFCON, scheduled for later this particular month. Liverpool lost their Premier League encounter yesterday to relegation side, or maybe relegation threatened Wolverhampton Wanderers, because the season is not yet over. We'll also look at matches that will take place later today. The likes of Arsenal, the likes of Manchester United will all be in action. But before we talk about all of these stories extensively, let us first of all bring you up to speed with big developments making rounds in the exciting world of sports. Welcome to the show. Conversation starts from the home front, where reigning National Sports Festival 100-meter men's champion Chidera Isiakor and Chinonso Odinaka dominated the sprint events on Tuesday to complete a clean sweep of 100-meter and 200-meter titles at the 2026 AFN Golden League held at the Samuel Ogbemodia Stadium. Isiakor, who had already won the men's 100-meter on Monday, extended his mastery to 200 meters, winning Final C in a personal best of 20.83 seconds. His performance was nearly a second faster than his closest rival, Paul Otagba, who clocked 21.66 seconds, while Enoch Dabo finished third with 21.76 seconds. In the women's 200-meter, Odinaka secured gold in final with a strong 24.13 seconds, holding off Mariam Jegede and Purpose Excellence of 24.53 seconds. The AFN Golden League in its maiden series continues to attract Nigerian elite athletes across premium classic and promotional events. Prize money for premium events such as the 100-meter and 400-meter stands at 100,000 naira for first place, 80,000 naira for second, and 60,000 naira for third. Positions receiving between 50,000 naira and 30,000 respectively. Classic events, which include hurdles, high jump, long jump, and 800-meter, offer 80,000 naira for first, 60,000 for second, 50,000 naira for third. Promotional events including 200-meter, 400-meter hurdles and throws provide a platform for athletes to gain exposure and performance bonuses. The next leg of the series is scheduled for Lagos on March 18 to 19, where sprinters, hurdlers, and field athletes alike will aim to maintain the high standards set in Benin City while chasing both personal best and prize money. Away from that, the International Olympic Committee has partnered with the Nigerian Olympic Committee to deliver an advanced gender-inclusive governance course in Abuja as part of efforts to strengthen women's leadership and institutional reform across Nigerian sports. The three-day program, supported by Olympic Solidarity, will take place from March 23 to March 25 at the Media Center, Package B, Moshood Abiola National Stadium. According to the NCO announcement on Tuesday, it is designed for former female athletes and women currently serving on the boards of National Sports Federation, with a focus on improving governance standards and expanding female representation in decision-making roles. The initiatives forms part of broader sports reform efforts aimed at aligning Nigeria's structure with global governance standards. NOC said it reflects a commitment to building transparency, accountable and inclusive systems capable of sustaining long-term development. The Nigerian Olympic Committee reiterated its resolve to align national sports governance with evolving international benchmarks and to work closely with government agencies and stakeholders to improve board diversity and leadership performance. Away from that, George Russell is exuding a quiet set for the start of what could be a defining year for him in Formula One. The Mercedes driver is neither playing down the attack of pre-season championship favorites nor leading into. Russell has been asked about it a number of times this past few weeks leading up to the Australian Grand Prix. When he addresses it briefly, sometimes tangentially, and moves on. The Briton, who turns 20 last month, has been among the most accepting of the new rules founded in engines with 50-50 split between internal combustion and electrical power. His mindset seems both positive and fully focused on what's to come. Russell is entering his 8th Formula One season and his 5th with Mercedes, and has proved himself without any question to be one of the elites in his sports. To the world of football, where Nigeria's Super Falcons staged a clinical response to their first leg defeat to the 2-match pre-WAFCON series, overturning an early deficit to beat the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon 3-1 at the Military Stadium in Yaoundé on Tuesday, 3 days after a narrow 1-0 loss in the opening match. The Falcons reasserted their continental dominance under coach Justin Madugu, who made 7 changes to the side that fell short on Saturday. Cameroon drew first blood in the 7th minute, briefly reviving memories of their previous win, but Nigeria responded with measured precision. Forward Chiwendu Ihezu equalized in the 32nd minute, rising above a marker to convert a cross from Rinsola Babajide. Babajide, already instrumental in creating the leveler, turned scorer herself before half-time, firing Nigeria ahead of the 53rd minute after a scramble inside the box. In the 64th minute, Michela Lozier capped the decisive victory with a soaring header from Ajibade's teasing cross, confirming a 3-1 final score line. The result marks a swift reversal for the Falcons following their narrow first-leg 1-0 loss, which ended an 11-match unbeaten streak dating back to a 2-1 friendly defeat to France in 2024. Still talking football, Andres scored the last gap winners. Wolves stunned Liverpool 2-1 and aimed back-to-back wins in the Premier League for the first time since April 2024. The rock-bottom side and the Premier League followed up their win over Aston Villa with all 3 points in stoppage time, courtesy of the Brazilians' first goal of the season 4 minutes into added time. Wolves have completely shaken their fear of playing in front of their home fans following their late draw with Arsenal and victory over Aston Villa, and they put themselves in position for successive wins when Rodrigo Gomez found the net with Wolves' first shot of the contest. Mohamed Salah scored for the first time in 10 league matches and 122 days to get Liverpool back on terms, but it was not enough for Arne Slot's side, who missed the chance to go into 4th. The Reds saw their 3-match winning run come to a crashing end, plunging their Champions League hopes into doubt, while Wolves continued to show encouraging signs despite relegation looming. Well, that's all we have for in Sports Wrap-Up at this time. We take a short breather. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation with the guys also joining the show. Do stay with us.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports at the Sports Central. And my name is Blyden Okem. Exciting times ahead. A part of a conversation around the world of sports is centered around the Super Falcons of Nigeria giving that sweet revenge in Yaoundé when they played against Cameroon. First observation was the first leg of a double-legged friendly between the Super Falcons of Nigeria and the Lioness of Cameroon. Guess what? They lost the first game 1-0 and many Nigerians were upset. A part of those Nigerians who weren't happy about it was Mfonitina, and most likely he's going to be happy about this result. The Super Falcons beating their opponent 3-1 away from home. A part of a conversation we'll also look at would be the world of tennis, the excitement when you talk about the likes of Carlos Alcaraz being nominated and Yannick Sinner being nominated into the big one. We're talking about the Lotus 2026 World Sportsman of the Year, and similarly, Arena Sabalenka and Nissimova also nominated in that regard in the women's category. It would make all the sense, also talking about the world of basketball and the intricacies of it. I'm not alone in the house, the guys are here with me. But first, Utaba David, good morning. A brief introduction when it has to do this one. Have you ever done something and your loved one is watching you behind the scene?
I've been in that spot before.
My wife is behind the scene watching.
Interesting.
You know what that means.
Proud moments, I must say. Good morning. A delight to be here, particularly. I think I'm quite, of course, happy about the Super Falcons yesterday because it was quite expected. 7 changes was what the coach of the side did ahead of the start of that particular game. So you expect some level of revenge, some level of reaction, especially for players who are regular starters for the Super Falcons. So yesterday's result wasn't surprising for me.
Mfonitina, I know it wasn't surprising for looking forward to it, but quite exciting the Super Falcons getting that victory for.
Surprisingly, they didn't get the win. But good to see them heading to the WAFCON, on the back of a win. Because if you go to the WAFCON on the back of another loss, it would also affect the players. But I'm more concerned about the Laureus Awards now. It's always very, nice to see tennis people win it. Because when you look at mainstream sport, you talk about football, you go to basketball before you even put tennis in there. But we've managed to see tennis people win the award. Roger Federer has won it, Rafael Nadal, Djokovic won in 2024. Carlos Alcaraz has won it, but not for the men award. He won it for breakthrough sportsman of the year. So now his opportunity, but I don't think he's going to win it. We have lots of other superstars who've done better than him in the past year. But maybe he might just nick this one.
Well, we got to talk about the big superstars that's done in the past years. Maybe one from football, not really a sound name for many to talk about. We're going to talk about it anyway.
Messi.
Yeah, maybe in time past. But we're looking at a current one now. Who gets a standout for you? Probably from football to talk about it. Well, let's begin a conversation from a home scene then and talk about the AFN Golden League taking place. The likes of, we're talking about Zico or Dinaka completing a clean sprint sweep. Well, you've been following what's happening at the AFN Golden League. Quite exciting these lads are doing, what they're doing. And it brings back the follow-up that we talked about. The past 30 days, we've looked at it, how the performances of some of the lads. I remember yesterday, I was really talking about, instead of them really creating new records, they're talking about improving their records. But good for Eziako and Odinaka, they're completing a clean sweep in this one.
Good competition, I would say. First of all, it has to do with, having opportunities, especially for many Nigerian athletes to, participate in. I think the AFN were quite intentional about the year 2026. And if you also look at the calendar here, they've lined out several tournaments that would also, have many young athletes from Nigerian scene to, harness their talent. And I think this is one of the, competition at the moment. Without this, we may not be actually talking about these athletes, and you never can tell what gets to happen before a major continental engagement for Team Nigeria. So I think it's quite good, particularly for the confidence, exposure it also brings to these athletes, and what to expect, particularly as regards to, continental and even international assignments. Good for the boys at the moment. And I'm saying, I think the FN are actually, going into the right direction, because at the moment we're also looking forward to many more competitions, especially before the end of Easter to come, and these athletes are actually doing brilliantly.
Well, just to add to that, like yesterday we talked about the prize money, so I took it upon myself to go find out the prize money. I took it upon myself to find the prize money. The highest competition, I think it's the track and field. Winner could go home with as much as 100,000 naira. So, which is why we don't have the big names here, because why are you looking for 100,000 naira?
Yeah,
that's why we don't really have people breaking records.
We talk about the Golden League, it's for young stars.
Yeah, it's for young stars, basically locally.
But the biggest conversation around this isn't just about them getting the money, it's about the progression.
Absolutely.
We're seeing those superstars, knitting them together. Recently I was having a conversation with Ifyo, and we're talking about Team Akwabu, the performances at the Niger Delta Games, and the projection that came with, it gave me some perspective around the Akwabu youth games that normally take place, and the games. An athlete can come in, didn't win it, but a coach can spot the athlete and know this for the future. Absolutely. And that could play in what it has to do with this one moving forward. And quickly we talk about the IOC partnering NOC to strengthen Nigerian women growth. Well, it's something funny to know. I know from a lawyer's perspective, you have to follow through in this one now. We're talking about the International Olympic Committee now, partnering with the Nigerian Committee and looking at how to strengthen Nigeria's women's group. I put it side by side, athletics. What are the measures that set place talking about the procedures that are going to do this?
Well, I think the International Olympic Committee is always very particular about African countries because I don't know, I don't want to come from a negative point of view, but sometimes I feel myself it's from a place of they feel we cannot do it on our own because they wouldn't have to step in and do that for women's sport, But they've looked at the Nigerian Olympic Committee and looked at them now, and they look like an organization that cannot really cater to the women. They've neglected the women when it comes to sports in Nigeria a lot. When you look at the pricing system and all of that, pricing system, funding and all of that for sports, the women are always far behind. Yes, I know it's also that way, with the rest of the world. Go to England, even the Women's Super League and all of that.
Paying attention to
exactly. But in Nigeria, we're still far behind when it comes to women.
Area from a sporting point of view would be that of the fans, how fans responding to. We're talking about Ibom Angels playing league games. How many Akwa Ibom fans go out to watch it? Because it's just not about the organizers.
It's also of interest as well, because men would also, make some exemption for some sports. It is not basically about, the entire, women's sports, but some aspects of sport. Because if you want to talk about football, the entire WFL is not really paid much attention to. That's why we do not really have, fans in those stadiums. But you look at the women's national team.
What do you mean when you say they're not really paying attention to it?
I'm talking about Nigerians now. Many Nigerians are not really paying attention to the NWFL.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
So that's what I'm saying. It's about some area of interest, and that's why it also cut across even to the national level. They do not give attention to women's sports.
Because according to the International Olympic Committee, they're partnering with the Nigerian Olympic Committee to deliver an advanced gender-inclusive governance course in Abuja as part of effort to strengthen women's leadership and institutional reform. Now we're talking about women's leadership. Even in politics, you say, give a little quota at the Senate. It doesn't really add up. Especially, come on, they make statement like a woman has to be the vice president. What stops a woman from being the president? So it's an all-inclusive. Yes, absolutely. Even from a media point of view, we have to think about it when we're doing stuff and talking about sports. Little wonder when a female becomes a good sports analyst, everyone's quite excited about it. Absolutely. Really, but it's basically something that a cause that everyone has to pay attention. Women or gender inclusivity in this one, especially regarding women in sports. Well, quickly we switch gear and go to the world of tennis, away from Nigeria, and see the intricacies in it. Carlos Alcaraz, Yannick Sinner, they've been nominated for the 2026 Laureus World Sportsman of the Year. Can they win it? It's left from Fonitina to tell us. Fonitina, what's happening? The big names are featuring in this one. It's always about the best sports person in the world. Sometimes we've had some basketballers really win it. We're talking about different kinds of players, footballers once in a while, especially the big names. I can't recall another footballer really won it apart from the top guys. Exactly. It used to be quite difficult for a footballer to win the Laureus Award, but until Cristiano Ronaldo became the biggest brand of it. But Carlos Alcaraz, Yannick Sinner, has they done enough? What have they done this year so far that they could be part of this award?
I think Carlos Alcaraz has done well for himself ever since taking Yannick Sinner off the #1 position. He's been able to dominate a bit. He won, I think, two Grand Slams last year, and he also won a few tour level competitions and a 1,000 event as well. So he's merited to be in that list. But does he merit winning it? That's the question now, because I don't think he's done it. When you look at people who've won it, the Tiger Woods of this world, talking about the LeBron James of this world, talking about the Michael Jordans, the Cristiano Ronaldo, the influence they had in the sporting world, not just their sport in particular, was so huge. I don't think Carlos Alcaraz can be put in that category as of this point. Novak Djokovic didn't win it till 2024. He was a household name before 2024, but only until 2024 before he won it. So when you look at it that way, Carlos Alcaraz, he's still, going through the ranks. He's still building that, influence about himself. But I think he's not ready yet. But if I can vote, definitely my vote is going to that man.
Voltaire saying his vote is going to that man.
I really want to know how many footballers.
I'm going there. I'll give you perspective of it. I've got the numbers. Trust me. I'm going to sort you out of it. But let's start from tennis players that have really won it in time past. Preferably just not many tennis players, but we're talking about the Sportsman of the Year honors. Roger Federer, 2005 to 2008 to 2018 and 2018. So within 2005 to 2008, Roger Federer won it. So tennis players have always mostly win it. And 2018, Rafael Nadal, 2011 and 2021 he won it. Novak Djokovic, 2012 to 2015 he won it. 2016 he won it. 2019 he won it. 2024 he won it. So the big three, the biggest brand in tennis, have been the one dominating it in that time. But let's go to others who've been nominated for this one, because it's not just about Carlos Alcaraz. A fellow Sportsman of the Year nominees include Ousmane Dembele for football. Only Ousmane Dembele in football anyway. No, he's not there. And Mondo Duplantis, athletics, and we talk about Marc Marquez of motorcycling and Tadeusz Pogačar of cycling. So when you look at the names, not the biggest of names around the world of sports, so it seems like there's a slim chance for the likes of Carlos Alcaraz in that regard.
Might just win it. He's the man who's been breaking records. When it comes to hurdles, something like hurdles, pole vault. The man set the record this particular meet. The next meet he breaks it. I think he does it on purpose.
If you look at the trajectory,
I will kill me. So he said he does it on purpose. So instead of breaking the full record, he just breaks a bit.
At a time.
I said, don't worry.
No, honestly, that's what he's been doing.
I think if you look at the list that you've mentioned, those are big names that are quite marketable names.
Yeah.
They do not just have names in their sport, but they have actually grown over the years in terms of their brand, particularly.
So
many will
it's
look
not
at
just about performance.
Yeah,
it's about the brand.
absolutely. So if I look at Carlos Alcaraz now and Yannick Sinner, both of them seem to be, of course, in the same pen now. Who's more marketable? Global brand? I do not know. Maybe I'll leave it for the organizers. Yeah, because of what he did last year, basically.
More marketable. Yeah. And we're talking about because he started before Yannick Sinner.
And he's more of a social person. We've seen our basketball games. We've seen him going to watch Real Madrid. There was a particular game where Real Madrid were supposed to play. I think Atletico Madrid. The Real Madrid players had to huddle around and watch him play against Yannick Sinner. So he's more of a brand, bigger than just tennis.
It's just big, especially when you're coming from Spain. Carlos Alcaraz is more like the new Rafael Nadal. Yannick Sinner, sadly, we've not really had an Italian do so well. So it's always difficult when it comes from your end and all that. So, but it's basically what it is. Yannick Sinner has done the most for himself. And similarly, world number 1 Arena Sabalenka and world number 6 Amanda Anisimova have also been nominated for the Laureus Awards World Sports Award. Why not world number 2? And why not world number 2? Why not world number 3?
No,
world number 6
is for comeback. Laureus Sports comeback.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. I would say anyway. But Arena Sabalenka, a big one to really talk about, a big brand. Well, I'm trying to catch up others that are nominated within the context anyway. Before the show is over, I'll get to give it to you anyway. But fantastic to have Arena Sabalenka be part of this mix and do what she has to do moving forward. And quickly now, we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, it would be the world of basketball. We'll talk about the NBA games that's taken place and the drama that's unfolded in the world of basketball. Don't go anywhere. It will be a sweet talking point when we're back from the break. Welcome back, still Sports Central. My name is Blyden Lukemu. We're diving funny channel still with me for company. And not yet talking about football yet. Now we're moving to the world of basketball and looking at the NBA, National Basketball Association in the United States of America. Well, first on the bouquet has to do with this one. Well, a Spurs rebound from first loss in 12 games to a wrap past 76ers 131 and 91. Some of the big names showing class and dominance, guys, and marking scoring 20 points as Thunders beat the Bulls 116-108 without Gilgeous Alexander. A bit of struggle. It seems like when Gilgeous Alexander gets to play in Fontaine, everything goes fine. When it's not around, the struggle a bit.
Unfortunately, this season my heart is not with them. I think I'm with the Spurs. The Spurs are doing something magnificent. And I've always liked Victor Wembanyama. Yeah. At a point, I wanted him to leave the
Lost
Spurs.
Wembanyama.
At a point, I wanted him to leave the Spurs, but he stayed there. Now he's been.
Why you can't give number one pick doesn't leave like that?
No, you can leave. You can leave if you want to.
They've done
you can leave if you want to.
Deals.
Yeah.
They've done some good trader deals. I mean, a couple of players. I think
Darren Fox is there now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You look at the chemistry between both players. Even when this is where the Spurs will be this season, I would actually doubt because you look at the side.
12 consecutive games to get that victory, and then after and back at it, they're winning.
The mentality is quite high, and the boys are doing very great at the moment.
But I think we also have to talk about the 76ers. Very disappointed. I don't know. We've not talked about them enough because the 76ers, they are a big franchise. When you look at the 76ers,
absolutely,
you cannot mention 5 other franchises.
Joel Embiid have been out for most of the season.
They need to do something about that particular contract.
Yeah.
Cut that man out, just cut your loss and get someone else in. That's
so for the 76ers, we're talking about 33 wins, 28 losses, 16 home losses, 16 home wins. Terrible for a big franchise. Yeah.
They might make it to the playoffs.
Absolutely, we know.
Yeah. So what happens at the playoff when they get to meet the big teams? That's just what's going to happen. That's the question now.
Well, consistency has been a thing when it has to do with the 76ers and what they get to achieve moving forward. But we're talking about some decent teams. The likes of Thunder are beating the Bulls, and we're talking about the likes of Williams hitting the numbers. Let's talk about the Grizzlies then. The Grizzlies were beaten by the Timberwolves 117-110. And guess who turned up to the party? Anthony Edwards, 41 massive point, changing the narrative with Troy David. When you've got Anthony Edwards, then are you sure that you got to propel to the next level of it?
It's always going to be the case whenever you made mention of that franchise. It's always going to be Anthony Edwards. I mean, I do not know whether or not this man will get help at some point because you look at that particular franchise.
You almost had Giannis join him this particular summer,
because
it didn't happen.
You look at him, a quality player, no doubt about that. But whenever they go to the playoffs, that's where you always stop. So what happens beyond the playoff routes? And maybe I think next season that particular side would actually do better to help the man. He's a really, really good player.
Talking about being real good players, we're talking about the likes of Luka Doncic scoring 27 points as Lakers rally past the Pelicans. We're talking about 110-101 in that regard. The Knicks also beating the Raptors 111-95, extending the win streak over Toronto to 12. Let's talk about the Knicks now. They're doing quite well. Numbers adding up for them. When you're having winning streak extending it to 12 is something to really talk about. You've been quite excited about the Spurs, but the Knicks are nicking it in.
Well, I think the Knicks are not really exciting for me. Honestly, I have to be very serious. When you look at the sides doing well, apart from the OKC and the Spurs, I would have to go to the Detroit Pistons. They have 46 wins this season. They are the second, behind the Thunder. The Knicks are there as well. I think they've gotten over 40 wins as well. But I'm not really impressed with them for whatever reason.
Probably you don't have a Wembanyama being there. That's why he's looking at them that way.
We also had the Clippers. No, not the Clippers now. The Cavaliers as well are winning their game this particular morning with the likes of James Harden also doing well for them. After leaving the Clippers have been struggling, but James Harden is having a very good with his new franchise with the Cavaliers.
Well, we're talking about James Harden doing quite well. It seems like he's gotten a new fortune with the Cavaliers. We're talking about the Phoenix Suns also beating NBA West Kings 114-103 to sweep season series. Miami Heat also adding up the number 124-98 victory over the Brooklyn Nets, and the Hornets routing the Mavericks 117-90 in that regard. A fifth straight victory for the Hornets, and the Orlando Magic's easing past the Wizards 126-109. Well, when the Magic meets the Wizards, then wizardry has no power in it. And Magic gets the better of the Wizards. I just have fantastic
there should be relegation in the NBA, so I have some of these things there.
Well, sadly, it wouldn't happen. Even the MLS, no relegation. You just win the league, come back. Sometimes they wonder, but it's working for them.
Fun. Basically, I don't know. That's why you barely see competition from these lowly rated sides, because they look at it at the end of the day.
Well, I don't think so.
We do better or not? I think so.
I don't think so.
Because
because you want to talk about the sports.
No.
Before they weren't doing good, they're doing good now.
Look at it this way, because I look at the what's the name now? The Wizard side. For the last 3 seasons, it has been the same case.
The Utah Jazz
as well. Those are poor sides, and they don't even make effort in bringing in some good players.
I think it's just about the
training seasons.
It's about the city now. You know, it's just like now in Nigeria. You don't expect which city is really tiny in Nigeria now to do well. When you compete with the likes of Lagos, Lagos is always going to be bigger than them. Utah is a very small city in America, so it's not really. They don't have a lot of financial power. So that's just it.
And many also would look at it when you're that poor. When you talk about, for example, the sports before the Saturday. Before they started getting to that level, the weaker side gets a #1 draft pick.
Yeah, exactly.
So when that happens, it builds that momentum. There was a times the Clevelands were that bad also,
Absolutely.
and we had LeBron James coming, and over time, it changed the fortunes of a club. It's because the #1 draft pick is more or less like the biggest talent on board that comes in, and that could be what the fans need, what the other needs to propel that momentum to go even further and start being a top side in terms of performance. But next, we'll go on another break, and when we're back, it would be football stories all around the world. Part of a conversation around the world of football would have to do with the Super Falcons of Nigeria getting a victory. There's been speculation about possibilities of hosting the Nations Cup. All will be netted in one conversation, the WAFCON in that direction. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back here to Sports Central. And my name is Vlad Mutweda Funny Tennis show with me for company going nowhere. And up next would be football stories around the world and football. Here we go. And when we talk about football, where to begin definitely will be from home. We're talking about not necessarily home, but the Super Falcons of Nigeria in that regard. They went to Cameroon, got a victory in the second leg of a friendly they played against Cameroon. After losing the first leg of that friendly, it was time to build a conversation and show strategy and energy back, but it happened. And what a first leg defeat of a 2-match pre-WAFCON series, overturning an early deficit to beat the indomitable Lions of Cameroon 3-1 at the military stadium in Yaoundé. Well, Rashida Ajibade inspiring the latter captain of the side in Fonitina, and we talk about the energy that comes with this side. A good win, we must say, after the struggle before.
Definitely, I think for the Super Falcons of Nigeria, this game was always going to end one way, and that's going to be a win for them, because I didn't see any road where the Cameroonians would get a victory over them again. But when I was feeling that much, I was trying to watch it, but I couldn't get
Cameroon scored first. We're talking about the Cameroon drawing first blood briefly, and we're talking about forward Chiwendu Ihezu equalizing, and then the momentum built.
Yeah, Rinsola Babajide was actually the woman in charge, of that particular game. She played quite man of the match at the end, woman of the match now, at the end of the game.
Player of the match.
And assist at the victory for herself.
Player of the match.
I'm asking myself, is that what to expect now from the team? Last time we had Esther Kurunko being, the one orchestrating everything good for the Super Falcons. Now we've got Rinsola Babajide. She's done quite well for AS Roma this season. So maybe
but
that.
She was part of the Nations Cup then.
And she was more off the bench, coming off the bench.
The early part of it started first 2 games, but afterwards the struggle, and you had to go to the bench. And just like the Everton midfielder, so others have to come in. Basically what it is anyway. But it's very exciting to talk about this and what they've been able to do. Let's talk about a Nigerian, Paulo Nacho. And I'm talking, when you talk about a marksman in his own regard, it has to be Paulo Nacho, hitting 20 goals of the season in the Turkish League. Absolutely fantastic. You want to talk about big players. If you wanted to mention a player to do it, maybe you could have said Victor Osimhen for Paulo Nacho.
Well, it's rather fortunate for Paulo Nacho because he's been consistent more.
It's unfortunate.
No, fortunate for him because he's been consistent more than.
Be careful.
He's been consistent more than Victor Osimhen in terms of the number of appearances. That's why he's been able to rack up more than Victor Osimhen. Quite good for him. He's had a successful stint in Turkey. This is not the first time. Even while he was on loan, he's also had quite a successful stint in Belgium. The only place he struggled was the English Premier League. It just shows not all players necessarily have to go to the Premier League. You can be a king elsewhere, and that's what Paul Onwachi is doing at the moment. We hear there have been, teams that are already interested in the man during the summer. And one of such teams is in Saudi Arabia. With many also saying at the age of 31, maybe it's time to go eat money and eat more money if you want like it to call it that way. But I think at the moment, the man is really showing good signs of a quality striker in the Turkish league and sending tongues wagging.
It brings back a conversation when things don't work, keep pushing. You never can tell what gets to happen for you. It's the story of Paul Onwachi. I was a highest goal scorer in the Belgium league for Genk. At the time, I went to Southampton, spent some seasons there. It didn't work out. Went on loan to Transport Return. It still didn't work out for him. And now I went back to where you have to go to where you're loved anyway. That's where we put it at the end of it. And now the highest goal scorer in the Turkish league, 20 massive goals. The man shows he can ball. Basically that. It was a game between Trabzonspor, the cup game quarterfinals against Istanbul Başakşehir. He scored in that game, 4-2 victory for them. And now 20 goals, a big superstar to talk about. Quickly, we're also talking about Ethiopia returning home after 5 years of exile. Well, maybe that gets to be something to really talk about afterwards.
Well, I think for Ethiopia now, it's all about, they've not played at home for 5 years.
Absolutely.
All the games have been away from home games have been away from home, also home away from home for them. But now they finally returned, and that shows the, how would I put it now, the administration in Ethiopia have been working, but in Nigeria, the Abuja Stadium has been dilapidated since that 2020, was it 2020 World Cup qualifier? No, yeah, but it shows that something can be done.
Except you don't feel you're home.
If a country like Ethiopia can fix their stadium, then we can fix the Abuja Stadium as well. It's not bad to have to.
I think the problem with Nigeria, I always love being in the fix. At the moment, the half so-called your stadium. So I said, come on, why stress yourself?
Everybody have any.
Because maintenance would always be a problem. The Kwara State government to maintain the Uyo Stadium are quite expensive anyway. But I won't talk about the details of a contract because humongous amount of money in that regard.
Ethiopia is also training their hearts to hosting the 2028 AFCON because they've got a stadium.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to host the AFCON with one stadium.
One stadium in the AFCON anyway. But good for Ethiopia athletes. They're playing back home now instead of going to be having home away from home. I think that was one of the biggest bends for Benin Republic during the World Cup qualifiers, despite performing so well. Anyway, quickly to European football, we talked about the likes of Everton up to 8 in the Premier League after win over Burnley. Many games took place yesterday. The RS penalty also separated sides as Leeds are beaten at home by Sunderland. Is that conversation? Liverpool also sunk Wolverhampton Wanderers on late deflected strike. Mo Salah scoring in this one, but Wolverhampton Wanderers are making the difference at the end of it. And Atletico Madrid, we'll talk about Spain. Let's stick to the Premier League. Big games which we're diving. Liverpool has struggled for them somewhat somehow this season. It seems they're going up, the next moment they're going downward against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves seems like a dangerous team to play at this moment. Remember, other teams are struggling against them. Arsenal beat Aston Villa and now beat Liverpool.
Well, I do not know what's wrong with this, so-called almost relegation threatening team, because
they went towards the end of the season, they begin fighting.
What's the fight about? Because if you look at it mathematically, I do not still think they will survive relegation at the end of the season.
Well, let them keep beating teams. Let's see what happens.
They still find ways of upsetting big guns, and now more pressure on Coach Arne Slot. They look like a team who's maybe destined to do better, because prior to this game, they already won back-to-back matches. But unfortunately, dropping points right here against a lowly rated Wolves. It's signals that are still a problem for Arne Slot. The man now, the conversation about finishing in the UEFA Champions League spots is still hanging in the balance. He has to find a way to make that happen.
They have to find a way to make that happen. That's a conversation, but Everton are still pushing for European football the way they're playing now, moving up 8 in the Premier League. Let's go then to Spain. Before we get a closer look, the Atletico Madrid fending off Barcelona and a rally to reach a quarter final. Well, Barcelona had beaten Atletico Madrid 3-0 of 2 goals in the first half. I remember having a conversation with the guys yesterday to say, come on, it's an easy game. It's not, no. Well, it was so close. And Barcelona would have beaten Atletico Madrid, made it 4-0. And we've seen it happen time and time again. Funny thing I want to ask you, were you surprised? Is it a starting lineup? What went wrong for Atletico Madrid, a team that defeated Barcelona in the first leg, 4-0, a second leg they slumped?
I think I would say it again. I think Atletico Madrid have a talented squad. They should part ways with Diego Simeone at this point. It doesn't get worse than this, you know. I think a different manager would have been able to manage that league better.
Solar started on the bench.
Look at the players that man has at his disposal, and he still lands job every time in the defensive. I never look man.
Koke started in the middle.
A manager that, of course, has a 4-0 advantage, a defensive manager, expect him to pack the balls in the second leg. That's,
I know,
that's exactly
quite
what
fine.
he did.
But after 2-0 in the first half,
That's exactly
you don't
what
do
he
that.
did.
Well, he did some substitution. He
After
took off
2-0 in the first half,
Devil Lookman.
what was he
Took off
expecting
Julian
when
Alvarez.
That's what I'm saying.
Giuliani got injured.
The intention wasn't about to attack Barca. It was just about to steady the backline and ensure he...
But you know,
after continuing in the first half, you have to change that.
but you know, we've seen it before in football a lot of times happening. You coming after scoring many goals in the first half, and your first leg, a second leg, you think it's done and dusted. And that mentality. A typical example was what we saw in the Champions League, but for Victor Osimhen.
Absolutely.
We're talking about Galatasaray. They could have been out of the Champions League with 10 men Juventus. Well, how are we going to talk about it even further? Real Madrid Rodrigo, a torn ACL out of this for the season to miss the World Cup. He just came back from injury and then another one.
Problem now for Real Madrid, not even the Brazil national team, because Kylian Mbappe is out, Rodrigo is out now. So I have
Jude Bellingham not available.
Jude Bellingham not available.
Kamavinga not available.
The Champions League against Manchester City. Problems looming.
A wicked laugh. I mean, while Cristiano Ronaldo out with hamstring injury, El Nassr confirmed it anyway. Yeah, not often going to talk about it. So it's sounding strange, even at the age of 41.
Yeah, very, very, very rare at this point. I think it's not going to keep it out for long. We know Cristiano Ronaldo will always make that return sooner than later.
Well, sooner than later, we're looking at Cristiano Ronaldo returning and playing football. There were rumors there was an attack at Riyadh, and rumors that Cristiano Ronaldo had fled. I said, enough with your 1,000 goals. I don't need it. I need to go with my family and be safe. But later on, we found out it was a false report anyway. Cristiano Ronaldo is still in Saudi Arabia. Quickly as we close, games will be taking place today in the English Premier League. We're talking about Aston Villa against Chelsea, Brighton and Hove Albion against Arsenal, Manchester City against Nottingham Forest, Newcastle versus Manchester United. Well, whichever, maybe you pick two, funny thing, I picked two. First two for you, Aston Villa, Chelsea and Brighton against Arsenal.
Well, first of all, it has to do with Aston Villa against Chelsea. I think that's the most interested game for me, because I look at Aston Villa. They have been on the descendancy in recent times, dropping points, and it's not good for their Champions League sports ambition. They have to get the better of Chelsea, otherwise if they lose today and
Chelsea also has got Champions League ambition.
Yeah, so both teams have got Champions League ambition.
So
that's why it's
game.
Quite a critical
and
game.
Both teams have not been playing so well in recent times.
So Chelsea, the case of two wounded Lions. For Arsenal, they should just continue winning, and I think they will win this night.
Arsenal are getting a away victory over Brighton and Hove Albion. On top of that, we're thinking so. City, Manchester City against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest can be very stubborn in recent times. And Newcastle United against Manchester United. Your Manchester United.
Well, I think it's I will finally see that game where Michael Carrick might get beaten. Newcastle are a very desperate team at the moment, trying to win games and all of that. So I think this might be a game where maybe a 1-0 win for Newcastle. Manchester City will be Nottingham Forest. It
can be a hostile environment from the fans, not like hostile, but where the fans cheering.
For Eddie Howe would be injury worries, because if you look at the injury list, Nico Utamadi is even, of course, a huge star for the game.
Yeah. Well, and the guys are not really paying attention to City against Nottingham Forest, but difficult game to really talk about. Who's set to bounce? Thank you guys for being a part of conversation this morning. Whichever David.
I had got a report this morning about the World Cup. Donald Trump said he does not care if Iran makes the World Cup or not. I'm just imagining if Iran into the World Cup, maybe infuse a little bit of some, bombers in there.
Well, FBI have given an announcement, and FBI said, look, foreigners you're coming to the United States of America, be careful about it, the way you operate. No drones.
This will be the most
chaotic. Thank God our Victor Osimhen is not going there.
They said no drones. We don't want anything flying in the air. The air has to be free.
You'll be watching the World Cup, you see army men on the pitch.
Political conversation,
yeah,
by the way.
And also we've heard about 40% of reservations in Mexico's hotel for the World Cup has been cancelled. About 63 rooms available, and 1/3 of them are not yet reserved. More cancellation taking place than bookings in Mexico, and about 98 days to the World Cup. Well, we'll talk about it even further. We have to bounce. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Kim. We say ciao, ciao.